If you want everything you need to know about Claude Fable 5, which is the newest model that Anthropic just released, you come to the right spot. I went deep, pulled tons of data, read the docs, read the benchmarks, independent tests. I even waited a little bit so that we could see how things play out, get more examples from real-world users using this, more developer reactions, things like that. My goal with this video is to cut out all of the noise and just give you the signal. Everything you need to know and what it means for the future, since many people think this is a split point in the world of AI. On June 9th, Anthropic launched Claude Fable 5. It's the first public model in their Mythos line. So this is a new line of models. So now it goes Haiku, Sonnet, Opus, and then Mythos. And they actually shipped 2 models at once. So there's Fable 5, which you can use, and then there's Mythos 5, which almost certainly you cannot. But the thing is, they're the exact same model. The only difference is the guardrails put around them. Mythos is the version with those guardrails removed, but it's locked behind a program that's only for the government or certain company partners. So when you are using Fable, you are using a deliberately constrained version of the best model that Anthropic has ever created. It also has a 1,000,000 token context window, which is important because this thing is built to run long jobs. Now let's talk price because this thing is expensive. It is $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. That is double the cost of what Opus 4.8 is. But Anthropic would like you to feel grateful here because the pricing for Mythos was originally rumored to be 5 times what Opus was. So now they launch it and it's only 2 times. Surprise, yay, 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 yay. But there is a catch that people are very mad about, which is that on all of the paid plans, Fable is available only up until June 22nd. After that, if you want to use it, you have to pay with the API-based usage pricing. So even if you're paying $200 a month for your max plan, you don't get to use this thing after June 22nd. They said that they plan to bring it back into those plans once they have capacity, meaning basically once they can afford to run the inference costs for it, but they haven't given any date for when that will be. And the rumors here are that this pricing is still wildly unprofitable on these paid plans. I'm not saying that's true, that's just what a lot of people think. For what it's worth, Anthropic's team has said that people don't really care about token cost. They care about cost per benefit, meaning if you have to use a more expensive model, but it gets the result faster or gets you a better result, then people are okay with that. Logically, that does make sense, but it's also an easy thing to say when your model costs double what the next one does. Now let's talk benchmarks. What does this thing look like with the numbers? The answer is pretty simple. It's state of the art across basically everything. That being said, the numbers here are Anthropic's own benchmarks or ones with select partners. But since now more time has passed since the release of Fable, some independent researchers have also tested this. For example, for a semi-independent example, the team at Every ran it through their senior engineering coding tests, and it scored a 91 out of 100, whereas Opus 4.8 got 63, and ChatGPT 5.5 got 62. So everything we've seen backs up the idea that this thing is extremely good. On the SWE-Bench Pro, which is the big software engineering benchmark, Fable got a 80%, Opus 4.8 was at 69, GPT 5.5 was at 58. So that is a big gap. Across knowledge work, across analytics, we're seeing really big gains as well. The word most people are using to describe this is a step change. It's not just a minor improvement, it's a whole different class of model. And there's one detail worth pointing at. You'll see on Anthropic's own benchmark table, a couple of those scores have asterisks. That's because that's where Fable was getting hit with these guardrails, so its performance was degraded because of the safety guardrails they put in place. So they're kind of showing the world, hey, we have these guardrails, and actually, look, they do decrease the performance. So in summary, from the benchmarks, it's very good. From the real world usage of people testing this, it's very good. But those are just numbers. Let's talk more qualitatively. What is it actually good at? What are people using it for? The main pitch is long horizon work, which is basically just a fancy way of saying work that has many, many steps to complete. It takes a long time to do it. And here, Fable is really good at breaking it down into all of the sub-steps that it needs to accomplish, but then stringing those together in a way that's cohesive, not getting lost along the way. So some notable examples. Stripe said that they ran a migration on a 50 million line code base. Fable did it in 1 day. They said by hand, their team would have taken them 2 months. On the vision side of things, it beat Pokemon Red with no help, no outside hints, just looking at the screen, figuring things out on its own. But what I think is really more interesting is what people started to build with it once it dropped. And the craziest thing that people are talking about is its ability to one-shot and clone apps. Someone points it at Minecraft. It clones Minecraft almost perfectly, not necessarily capturing every single unique thing about Minecraft because there's lots of like small details, but the general experience was virtually the same. People are vibe coding playable games from one single prompt. Or one guy gave it a 3-word prompt and a flowchart of what he wanted his app to look like, and it returned with a fully functioning app, login, the full UI, everything. If you want to talk about what it's not good at, it doesn't quite make sense because there's nothing that it's really bad at, especially it's not like it got worse compared to other models, but there are many things where it's probably overkill. So for example, if you're not doing a long horizon task, you just want it to say, write some copy for you, then you probably don't need Fable because it's just going to be really expensive. Many people have talked about it using insane amounts of their usage limits with just a couple prompts. So if it doesn't feel like something that needs Fable, it's probably best to stick with a lower model. But the theme overall is what we said. It's less of a tool that you babysit, and instead you just give it instructions and it goes and does the whole thing. But then we need to talk about the nerfing. And here we'll start with part 1. This is the nerfing that's actually visible. Fable watches for every request that you send it, and in certain categories, it simply will not respond. It will actually downgrade to a lower model, to Opus 4.8. So if your request has something to do with cybersecurity, biology, chemistry, or copying the model itself, it's not going to give you an answer there. It's going to downgrade the model. But it will notify you when this happens, which is nice. And Anthropic says that this happens in less than 5% of all requests. But what people are calling this is a Ferrari with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limiter, which is honestly fair. But the thing is, and what is really making people mad, is that the limiter is very twitchy. Anthropic has said this themselves, that they were very strict with the guardrails. So even things that aren't that closely related to those restrictions are getting flagged. Even basic questions about security research. One person on Reddit pointed out that maybe this is the start of us seeing an AI inequality in terms of the models given to certain groups. So as the public, we get this heavily guardrailed version, but then vetted partners get the real full thing. We could continue to see that in the future. Then there's more nerfing, and this is part 2. This is the part that they don't show you. If you specifically use Fable for frontier AI research, so things about how to train models, pre-training, post-training, things like chip design, etc. Anthropic will limit the model on purpose, but they won't tell you. They will just give you a worse response. And their reasoning is they don't want to help rival labs build really strong models without the right safety measures. And honestly, I think that's fair. But the part that people are really losing it over is that they don't tell you. So it's them being a little bit sneaky about giving you worse performance. And then there's one more small thing buried in the fine print, which is that Fable now requires 30-day data retention for all requests. Before, this wasn't the case. And they say it's for safety. They're not going to train the model on your data. It's just, again, for safety. But this could set a new precedent that when you release one of these really advanced models, all of the data needs to get stored for safety purposes. So we could be starting to go in that direction. Okay, so that's a lot of data. Now let's step back for a second. One of Anthropic's team leads made a really interesting point when they launched this. He said that he is now thinking of this as the third era of AI. He said, first, we asked it questions. It was basically like a smarter Google. Second is we gave it tasks. Go and fix this bug. Write me this email newsletter. And he says, now with Fable, we hand it responsibilities. So instead of saying, go fix this one bug, you say, watch all of our crash reports, evaluate it for bugs, and then fix those so that we don't crash again. It's where you're starting to think of AI as its own autonomous team member, not someone you just delegate individual tasks. Now, I feel like people have kind of been saying that for the last few years. That's like always a big talking point. So I'll let you make your own decision there, but this definitely is a step up in terms of those capabilities. As for Mythos 5, that is still being tested with Project Glasswing, so amongst governments and certain company partners. But we'll see that ish, and once those guardrails are off, things could change quite a bit. Already, Anthropic has voiced concern over these latest models being able to help improve themselves. That's becoming much more common, and you can even see that in how fast Anthropic is shipping and advancing their models. So that's for the future. That's to come. For now, that's what you need to know about Fable 5. It is incredible, but expensive. If you have a very heavy task to do, it'll help you out, but it'll cost a bit, and you can only use it in your paid plan until June 22nd. I'll see you next time.